Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you guys are having a great, beautiful, fantastic day. Today is Wednesday, the 17th. It is a beautiful day today, nice and sunny in the sunshine state of Florida. It's always a pleasure to be making these videos for you guys and just talk about different topics, guys. Today we're talking about condos. A lot of the videos, or before we get into it, guys, my name is Joel Vargas. I'm a licensed and insured realtor here in South Florida. My number is 305-988-2230. If you guys are looking to buy, looking to send you a property manager, I would love to work with you guys. All right, so let's get right into it. Today we're talking about condos. Condos. I always touch briefly on this because it is a hot topic. We're gonna go to a little forest walk here. It is a very hot topic, condos, and let's jump right into it. Condos, guys, right now in South Florida, and again, I'm gonna speak. I do real estate here every single day, so what I speak of is from my work and from my experience here working with condos. I live in a condo myself, so let's get right into it. So condos. Why are we talking about condos today? Well, the overall gist of it is condos are very appeasable to many buyers. Reason being is condos are cheaper than homes. It's just quite frankly as simple as that. To get a decent home here in South Florida, realistically, a decent home, I would say, again, a decent home in a decent area, you're looking at about $400,000. Using a 3.5% FHA loan, your payments roughly with mortgage, insurance, taxes, and all that good stuff, escrow, it's usually over $3,000, usually $3,500 with a 3.5% down. But just to get right into it, guys, condos. Why are we talking about condos? Well, condos obviously appeasable because the price, right? They fit that nice zone where they're not as expensive as homes, and they're usually much easier to qualify for than a home, than a $400,000 home. Now, why is this? Why are we talking about this? Well, specifically with condos, what we're seeing in South Florida and all across South Florida, from Miami, Homestead, West Palm Beach, Port St. Lucie, you're seeing high HOA fees, right? I mean, I'm not talking about high, I'm talking about like exacerbated prices, right? I've seen condos, HOAs go for right now, literally, it's realistic for you to be paying at the very low end 500, and I've seen them go up to $1,200-$1,300 monthly just for the HOA payment. Now, that's not including anything else, just for the HOA payment. Now, your question is, you're wondering why? Why are we seeing these high payments? Why are we experiencing these high payments in condos? Well, one of the biggest things that we're experiencing with condos, we're actually gonna take a little detour here. We're gonna go off the beaten path. One of the main details with condos is that condos are, you have a high HOA payments because of reserves. Reserves is just to keep it in very simple terms, reserves is an account of money that associations have for any work that they need to get done, whether it's roof, elevator, build structural maintenance, building painting, all these things, right? There's a lot that goes into maintaining a condo building itself. So the HOA usually can take from that reserve, they can get the work done. Now, why is this important? It's not important only because it allows the HOA to have money to work on their buildings, especially with the 40-year certification. A lot of buildings right now are going through the 40-year recertification. That happens every 40 years, where they got to do structural maintenance, repairs, anything that's crucial to the building. So why is this important? Well, it's important because a lot of condos here in South Florida don't have reserves. It's as simple as that. They don't have reserves. They don't have that extra money to be able to pull out and apply this money to maintenance and repair the building. That's one of the main things that's going on. So how does this affect you as a buyer, a condo buyer? Well, this is how it affects you. With a condo that doesn't have reserves, if you try to buy a condo right now that does not have reserves, you will, we'll go off the beaten path again here. if you try to buy a condo that doesn't have reserves, what happens is you will not be able to buy a condo that doesn't have reserves with a low down payment. When I'm talking about low down payment, I'm talking about 3.5%, 5%, 10%. You know, so we're already kind of getting up there. Typically, and this is what I've seen every time I've dealt with a condo, a buyer, and I had to do this myself because I bought a condo as well, and I had to pay, if I'm not mistaken, it was either 20 to 25%. So typically what happens is the lender will not qualify the association / condo because of their lack of reserves. So now what does that mean? You typically got to put 20 to 25% down to be able for your lender to qualify that condo and that association. So let's just run some numbers here. I'm going to talk about Davie, Florida. It's a good starting point. It's not overly expensive. It's not cheap, but it's not as expensive as Miami. It's a little more affordable. Let's just do some basic math. You're a buyer. You're looking for a 2-bed, 2-bath. And ideally, you want to buy a home. You know, that's your main goal. But you can't buy a home. You don't qualify to buy a home because the homes are just too expensive. You know, you don't qualify to buy a home because they're just too expensive. So you say, all right, I'll take a condo. You know, I want to have something for myself, for my family, what have you. You go ahead and you try to buy this condo. You say, okay, bank says, hey, you qualify for this amount, $200,000 realistically. That's what a condo in a good area, in a decent area starts at here in South Florida. It's about $200,000. You say, okay, bank, I want to use a 3.5% down FHA. The lender can qualify you for a 3.5% FHA. But what happens is, let me turn back here. I'm way lost. What happens is, okay, you say, okay, lender, here you go. Boom, the lender will say you qualify for this payment and with this HOA, right? And so then you go, okay, I like this community in Davie, Florida. The lender's gonna say, well, I need to see their reserves. And the reserves usually comes from an accounting page. And it comes from an accounting page from the HOA. It's an actual accounting document that shows where all the money's being sent, monthly payments, gives you a breakdown of all the money goes. It's it's a financial statement from the HOA. They give you an updated financial statement. You go ahead and say, all right, cool, send this to your lender. Your lender realizes there's no reserves, and they say, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, in order for you to buy this property, you need to put 20 to 25% down. So let's just run some numbers. Instead of that $200,000 condo, right, that's going for $200,000, and let's say you got to put 3.5% down, you typically, to close on a property like that, just a range, just an estimate on your closing statement, you're looking at about anywhere, give or take, roughly about $15,000. Could be a little more, $17,000, $18,000 with closing costs, taxes, prorations, and what have you. So now you go, and instead of being able to put that, let's say $15,000 to $17,000 to close, your lender is going to require this high down payment. Now you got to put 20, 25%. Let's keep these numbers simple. Let's say it's 20%. That means that to buy this $200,000 condo, you need to be able to put 20% down. So 20% down on a $200,000 property, that's $40,000 down payment only. It's not including closing costs. You add in there some closing costs, and you're going to be looking at realistically $50,000 to $60,000 to buy that 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo. You can start to see where the numbers and the math just kind of starts getting out of whack. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, right? And realistically, most people don't have $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, especially when they're under the assumption that they were going to be able to buy this condo, you know, for, let's say, right under $20,000 all in. So this is where we're having problems. Now, some backstory, why we have this issue. This happened, I want to say about 2 years ago, 1.5 to 2 years ago, where there was a building in Surfside. I believe that's the name of the city, if I'm not mistaken. There was a building in Surfside, and that building ended up collapsing and killing a lot of people. They did an investigation on that building. There was a lot of foul play going on. But they got kind of down to the roots, and the root of it is the building just simply didn't have the reserves to, give me 1 second, I gotta get through this fence. the building simply didn't have the reserves to fix, to do the appropriate repairs. And mind you, this was a condo building. A lot of units literally collapsed. You know, literally fell on itself, and it it created a lot of problems, and it kind of exposed a big problem we have here in South Florida. Just primarily being that you know, this is a big problem we have here. And the sad thing is that most condos in South Florida don't have reserves. They just simply don't have it. They don't have their budget, they don't have their budget balanced correctly. And it's all these things, guys. We're living in South Florida. This, I don't know if it still is, but at one point this was the number one, Miami was the number one city of fraud in the world. So there's a lot of funny business that goes on down here. Let me see if I could get to this water view. I want to show you guys this. So anyway, so they ended up collapsing, killing a lot of people. And so because of this, there were some policies enacted that by 2025, HOAs need to have an X amount of money in reserves to be able to do proper maintenance. That way we can avoid buildings collapsing, because you can't have buildings collapsing because literally it kills people, right? That's literally what we're trying to avoid. And because of this, a lot of condos right now, they're going through their 40-year certification, recertification. These are assessments that, and what happens is, especially when they don't have reserves, they pass on assessments to the owners of these units. The owners pay the assessments. Then, because there's no reserves, everything that's not budgeted for needs to get paid for by assessments. And these assessments really start adding up. And just so give you guys an idea, when I moved in my condo, I was paying $330. It was about 5 years ago. I was paying $330 a month. Forward 5 years to today, I pay, it's coming out to $750. Comes right around $750. You can see where it's like a little over double. You know, so it's right around double what I used to pay. And now this is my situation, guys. When I bought my property, I didn't buy a property. I didn't buy when it's just, I actually bought at a really good time. So even though I've had these really massive increases in HOA because I bought in such a good time and I got such a good interest rate, I've been able to kind of, you know, deal with the increases in condo prices, you know, which sucks. But, and this is my situation, guys. I was lucky at the time I bought. I got a decent deal, and I'm in a good area. But that's not the same situation for people that are buying now. And remember, people are buying condos because they don't qualify for the $400,000 home, and so they look at the second option, which is condos, you know, and this is what's going on. Now, how does this affect real estate? How does all this affect the economics of real estate? Well, I can tell you this. There's going to be YouTubers out there. I'm not going to name any names, but there's going to be people that you're going to see that, and when you guys are watching these videos, understand this is what I do full time. There's going to be people that are licensed that actually don't practice real estate, and they go based off what they're reading and what they're seeing and yada, 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 this and that. I can tell you from experience, are condos right now going through a fire sale? The answer is no. Condos are not cheap to buy. They've had small reductions within the past 3 to 4 months, just like most of the real estate here in South Florida. But there's not a fire sale. It's not, these aren't properties that you're getting at these crazy deals, you know? Yeah, you can find a seller that's gonna wanna possibly sell quicker, especially if his property's been on the market longer. Maybe you can get the seller to give you some concessions. Yeah, that's all possible. But to say that we're having a fire sale is not true, and it's incorrect. You look at any desirable city in South Florida, guys, if it's priced right, it sells. Now, when you go to your lender and your lender qualifies you for that $200,000 loan, they're gonna wanna know what that payment is. And so, let's say your total amount of payment, just an example, right? Your total payment that the lender is going to allow you to have is $2,000. That's going to be with your HOA and insurance and all these things. They're going to say, hey, we're going to give you this and you're going to be able to qualify for $2,000. Because these HOA payments are so high, sometimes you won't be able to buy in a decent amount, a good amount of areas because the HOAs are so expensive. So it's this weird thing where what ideally is thought to be more affordable becomes actually not so affordable, you know. And on top of the high monthly, you're having to put down $50,000, give or take $50,000 to be able to close on that deal. And guys, this is a reality check. Most people don't even have $10,000 or $5,000 in their account. You know, like this is the reality of this is a real situation here. You know, most people do not have $50,000 to buy a property. That's why they go FHA. That's why they go and they try to get home assistance program. That's why they try to do these things to get around paying all this money, right? And I'll give you some examples. Where I live in Davie, there are some properties that have been on the market for some time, to be honest with you. I want to say anywhere from 3 to 4 months. It is a good amount of time. That's it's becoming somewhat more regular, but it's still an irregularity, right? The property where I live at below me sold. You know, properties are still selling, right? Regardless, even though all this is happening, properties are still selling, right? But here's the thing with condos too. When it comes to, well, when we talk about assessments, right? If they don't have the reserves, they pass on that assessment to you. On top of this assessment, there's actually now, because they got to fulfill those reserves, now they got to pass on another assessment to be able to get that money in reserves, because by law, they need to have this by 2025. And to confirm that they're doing what they're supposed to do, they need to have a reserve study. And to my understanding, what a reserve study is, they send an accountant, a professional accountant. They come in, they look at the numbers, they qualify. Okay, good, you're good. Now, what repercussions are there for condos that don't have the reserves? I'm not sure. It doesn't really seem like they're going to have repercussions right now. But remember, guys, if an HOA is not able to do its 40-year recertification and repair and put a new roof or repair the electrical panels and all this stuff, they're not going to be able to get insurance on the building. You know, so all these things are happening right now as well, as far as, you know, being able to maintain the building themselves. So it creates a situation where condos are pretty much forced to be able to, they need to be able to have all this put together, right? They're forced to do this, and what do? If they don't have reserves, they pass on the expenses to the owner themselves. I know people in Miami that live in Miami where they pay about $1,000 every month in just HOA payments. Mind you, it includes in their 40-year recertification, they did get impact windows, they did get brand new ACs. They did get a lot for that, but still, it's $1,000 just on HOA payments. And this is a real situation happening every day here, guys. People are paying a crazy amount of money just to be able to live in condos. And again, going back to why you would even live in a condo in the first place is to be able to afford to have more affordable living. So it creates this dynamic where, what do you do? What do you do as far as a buyer? You have some cash, you want to have a property, and now you're not able to actually afford what you're buying. So how do you get around all this? Well, one way to get around this is you can look specifically at condos that have reserves. You would really want to work with a realtor who's experienced with this. There's not a lot of realtors that understand this whole reserve concept, and I can tell you from experience, guys, that I've worked with buyers that were looking at reserves, and I was literally analyzing financial documents of HOAs. Like, it's this whole process, guys. It's this whole thing, you know. And when we did it, we were looking at homes for about 6 to 8 months. We ended up not finding anything because he couldn't buy a condo with a 3.5-5% down payment. There was nothing had reserves. You know, literally nothing had reserves. Any building we looked at that he can afford, that he qualified for, then none of them had reserves. So there were properties that we got under contract, and then we would get provided this financial document. Bank would tell us we can't qualify this guy, or this, sorry, excuse me, we can't qualify this client because of this whole issue, because of the reserves. So what's going to happen now? How do we get around this? Well, there are a few buildings in South Florida that do have reserves. There are a few buildings in Davie, Florida that have reserves. Very few of them, honestly, guys. So you'd want to be able to look at those buildings that have the reserves. Again, you want to work with an experienced realtor when you do these things, because a lot of realtors don't really understand this whole reserve issue. They never really dealt with the reserve issue. And you want to be able to, and even if you're listing with a realtor, you want to have them be able to understand what's going on with the financial in the community, because you want to filter out people that can and can't buy. You know, you don't want to waste time with somebody who says, I love this place, I want to buy. You know, 2 weeks down the road, they say, oh, I don't qualify because of reserves. Like, you want to avoid wasted time. That's why you want to work with an experienced realtor. And you're looking at one right here. If you want to work with me, guys, I would love 2305-988-2230. Buying, selling, or property management, I'm your guy. But getting back to it, guys, this is what's going on with this whole issue with reserves and people not being able to afford condos. It's this whole thing, everybody. It's really a sad situation. So what I was telling you, you can look, if you're looking to get a condo, you can look at condos specifically that do have reserves, that can qualify you for a low down payment. 3.5%, 5% down payment is ideal, what you want to be looking for. Another way to do it is, if you can't find a condo that you can afford with the reserves, at the end of this year, there's supposed to be substantially more condos that are going to have reserves. So you'll be able to actually buy into these buildings and get into them because they're going to have reserves. And so that's one thing. But going back to what we were saying about the mortgages and how that works, if your lender sees that your building is, if your lender sees that the HOA payment for your building is $1,000 and you qualify for X amount of money, you might not be able to qualify just because of the monthly HOA. One thing you can do if you're buying into these buildings is you can try to have the seller pay off the assessment altogether. Now, this is not necessarily an easy thing to do because some of these assessments, guys, we're talking, some of these assessments are literally like thousands and thousands, $10, $20, $30,000. And sellers are very reluctant to even want to offer that because it's just so much money. Maybe they can pay part of it. Maybe we can work something where they just pay an amount of it. But it creates a situation, guys, where, man, it's just hard to be able to get it's just hard to be able to get into these buildings, So, but yeah, guys, that's pretty much the overview of Condo. And I wanted to talk about this because I always talk about this in the videos, and I always talk about like this little topic about condos and reserves. This is the whole situation going on with this. This is a real situation. This is really happening. When you see somebody buying condos, guys, they were able to buy that because the reserve had condos, which most of them don't. So they honestly got pretty lucky finding something that has reserves. Or second, they came out of pocket literally tens of thousands of dollars to be able to live there, just to be able to live in a condo. And I don't know about you guys, but if I'm forking out 40, and listen, I did fork out about $50,000 when I bought mine because, again, the whole condo issue. I actually paid, if I'm not mistaken, 25%. It was anywhere from 20 to 25%. I think I paid 25% because I didn't want the PMI, which is insurance for the mortgage or insurance on the mortgage. And you can do that. You can get around paying PMI, which is, again, insurance for the mortgage, not for the home. It's for the mortgage. And if you pay anything if less than 20%, then what they do is they tack on an extra fee, and it's an insurance for the mortgage if you default. So to get around that, you can put 20% down. In my situation, I put 25% down to get around that. That way I don't have any mortgage insurance. Again, insurance just for the mortgage itself, not for the home or the property. But yeah, I paid like $50,000, guys, to not pay PMI, and I didn't want the mortgage insurance. I didn't want any of that. I wanted to kind of keep my costs. It was a lot of money, guys. And right now, to be honest with you, 2024, if you're paying that kind of money for a condo, listen, you got to do what you got to do. If you're looking for a property and you want to have your own space and you want to be able to do it, this is kind of the ticket to get into most of these condos. Now, things this time next year could be different. It could be that much more condos are going to have much more reserves, but I wouldn't necessarily hold my breath for that. I wouldn't necessarily hold my breath for that because it's the assumption that these HOAs are going to do right and be able to have users. But again, guys, it's a big if. It's a big what if. Will they? Nobody really knows. So yeah, I know it's it's a lot of little details, but it's kind of what's going on with this whole thing with condos. So I see YouTubers. Saying that there's a fire sale on condos and you get all these great deals, guys. In no situation, even now, being as crazy as the condo situation is, are you seeing fire sales now? Does that mean that you won't see properties that you can get good deals on? I'm not saying that. I'm sure there's HOA condos in Miami that have over 1,000, 12, 13, 14, 1,500 bucks in monthly HOA payments that they're selling because they don't want to deal with a $1,500 HOA payments. Is it common for HOAs to have $1,500 payments? It's not very common, but it's realistic for condos to be anywhere from 800 to 1,300 bucks, and people want to get out of that, you know? And when somebody's loss, it's somebody's win. Now, what makes it difficult for these individuals is not so much even, the high HOA payments obviously isn't that ideal for them, and they can pay off the assessment before it can be agreed that the seller pays the assessment. I don't know if they're going to be paying $20,000 to $40,000, $50,000 in assessments, but you can work something out where they pay part of it at least. But it's not even so much just the HOA payments, guys. It's the mortgage payments. Interest right now, realistically, I've seen mortgage interest at around 7%, 7.5%. I'm working on a VA loan right now where the interest is about 5.5%, which is honestly the best I've seen. But again, it's a VA loan. You have to have been in the military. You need to qualify for that, by being in the military. But that's the lowest I've seen. But because of these high HOA payments, guys, like, there are people where I live that are literally paying just for their mortgage on a condo. They're paying like $2,000, like $2,200 bucks just for a condo, and then you tack on the $800 because mind you, some condos in a building they might vary. Some might be a little higher, some might be a little lower depending on the size of your unit. I know someone that's paying all in $3,000 just for a condo. Now, with all that being said, as far as investment wise and as far as, do I recommend you buying one? Listen, if you're in a situation where you want your property, you're ready to buy, I don't see why you wouldn't buy. So be honest with you. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, you just want to sell. Guys, when I bought my property, I was ready to buy. I was ready to have my own space. I was ready to live on my own. So I had my reasons. But what I will say is this. If you're looking at condos right now as an investment, do your homework because of the mortgage payments being so high, the interest percentage being so high, because HOA payments are so high. Buying a condo right now as investment property, I'm not saying it's not worth it, but I'm not saying it is worth it. You have to run the numbers and see if it makes any sense. If you can make $300 to $500 profit every month as an investment property, that's realistically a good starting point to say, okay, that's okay money. It's not the best, it's not the worst. It's okay money. Guys, but if you're buying an investment property, especially a condo, and you're making $100, $200, you got to put all this money down and deal with this and all this stuff, like, you might want to reconsider. I don't know if condos right now are good investments just because of how high everything is, especially if you're buying now for an investment and it's not a primary residence. I would say you need to really do your homework. Find out, obviously, your monthly mortgage. Find out what it's going to be. Find out what your insurance is going to be. Find out everything all in what the monthly is going to be. And then when you find that out, find out what the HOA is going to be. And on top of finding out what the HOA is going to be currently, you should also try and find out, are there any assessments that are on the way coming? Because, man, you guys, a lot of these buildings are going through their 40-year recertification. So if you're looking at a property right now that was built around 1980, or let's say, 1980, 1985, 1990, you've already gone through your certification, the assessments have already happened, you're either doing your recertification now, or you're going to be doing your recertification. And remember, guys, when HOAs are running their numbers, they're not necessarily doing things they have to make the numbers work so that the building is taken care of. That's their concern. If they pass on an assessment, and again, my HOA person has passed on many assessments. We don't get to vote on them. We don't get to say yes. We don't get to say no. It's just a letter we get in the mail saying, hey, next month your HOA is going up this amount. That's how this works, guys. HOAs have so much power. It's ridiculous. But not to defend HOAs, they have to have money to be able to fix the buildings, to be able to make sure the building doesn't fall on itself, because this has happened. And this hasn't just happened in condo buildings, guys. Universities here, garages have fallen. I mean, there's so much funny business that goes on down here that it comes to a point that laws have to be enacted to make sure that all these buildings are being maintained and well taken care of, you know? So, but that's pretty much it, guys. I don't see fire sales happening on condos. It's very possible that you can come in on a good deal in a condo in Miami, let's say, where the HOA is really expensive. But those deals, guys, those aren't just deals that are popping up. You got to look for these things. And again, you got to find out what else is going on with the building. You know, what's included in the HOA. If you're paying $1,000 in the HOA, what are you getting back from that? You know, I pay, again, $750 right now. I get a couple things, guys. Do I think it's worth it? No, honestly. But I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. And if next month they want to raise it again, I don't have a choice or say in this. The only thing that saves me in my situation is I bought when interest rates were low. I bought at a good time. So even though I'm having these increases, I can still kind of work my way around it. But it is getting outrageous. I don't want to be paying $1,000 for monthly HOA. My HOA doesn't include a new AC. My HOA doesn't include impact windows. It's literally paint on the building. They come in with an engineer. They structurally make the building sound. I don't know what else. They work on electrical panels. But remember, anytime that anything needs to get done, it's assessment, guys. And their assessment, because my building doesn't have reserves, they pass this on to the actual owners. And nobody has a say in this. So this is I hope I made a detailed video for everybody looking to buy in a condo. This is a real situation. I can't speak for any other state or any other cities except for South Florida. I work in South Florida all the way from Homestead, Key Largo, Key West, all the way up to Port St. Lucie. I'll even work a little further than that. Guys, this is what I do every day. I'm willing to go the extra mile for my clients. And if you want to work with me or you like these videos, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you want to work with me, guys, this is what I do every day. I would love to work with you guys. My name is Joel Vargas, 305-988-2230. If you're looking to buy, looking to sell, and you're the property manager, I'm your guy. You guys have yourself a great day. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay motivated. And to the next one.